I figured I should start with a cool pose. Hello, hello, Ken. Everyone here is Ken. Anybody here? Me. If you guys have been around for a while, you know how to let me know when to start. So if I see a couple of Carter is handsomes, we'll be good to go.
Let's wait
Chat's
for it.
pretty quiet.
Yeah, chat is really quiet. I think people still has to come in. I don't see any charters and some. So guys, if you can hear us,
Carter. Okay. Oh, we have a hello people on Twitch. Does that count?
That does. I think. Oh, maybe.
Oh, well, people are probably. Okay, there we go. I see Pro Rookie letting me know I'm handsome, so I guess we're good to go.
We got an handsome Carter, so we can start.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be handsome anymore. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of our Founders Talks. We've done so many of these that I have given up trying to track how many we're going to do. Maybe eventually I'll do an actual count. But yeah, today we've got plenty to spoil for you guys. And today, really, Umberto and I are just here to look handsome because today is a Brian show. Today is a Brian show.
We're just the valet, the dancer. This is Brian's stage. Oh, exactly.
Yeah, we're just background dancers today. But yeah, so I don't want to take away his all of the big reveals that he's gonna do. So without any further ado, you guys have plenty of questions. I've seen the questions you guys have posted on Twitter. We'll come to that in just a second. But Brian, off to you.
Sounds good. So plan for today is to talk a little bit about the story challenge format. So what the PvE mode is going to look like at a high level. Walk you through that. And then we're going to deep dive on the battle engine. So we'll take breaks occasionally to ask for questions. I know everyone's super excited about the battle engine. So we'll do a bunch of reveals here, and then there'll be some teasers at the end for everyone that sticks with us. All right. So you want to bring up the first screenshot, Umberto?
Yes. Let's kick it off then. Ole. So we just Carter, see the difference. Just sorry for hijacking you, Brian, but just notice the difference. When we are me or Carter leading the AMA, we spend a lot of time chit-chatting about bullshit. Now we have Brian,
straight into chat.
Exactly. Okay, so let's kick it off.
I know what the people want. It is what it is. They're only here for the content. They don't want to look at us.
All right, guys, make sure that you tell us if Brian is wrong. If you like hearing me and Umberto chat bullshit, let us know. All right, we can have a 15-minute segment of just that. But yeah, sorry, I'll shut up now.
Brian, stage is yours.
All right, so this will be a big reveal. So this is the battle mode selection screen. Obviously, we're teasing some content that will be coming after PvE releases. But from a general flow perspective, you'll click like the battle button on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and you'll be brought into this screen, which is basically where you pick your battle mode. So in the long run, we plan on supporting at least these 4 different battle modes. You've already probably heard us talk about practice mode. That's the one that we'll be releasing first, way for you to earn some training tickets and kind of just get familiar with the battle system. When practice is live, we'll also be keeping a pretty close eye on game mechanics and the logs for games to see how balance is working. I will tell you that I've been getting wrecked by the bots in practice mode. It's not looking pretty for me. So it's been an interesting experience. We've got some tuning to do. And then story challenge is what we'll talk about. And then obviously we've sort of teased Battle League and tournaments, which are PvP that are coming in later the year. And for anyone sort of paying close attention, you'll see a fair amount of spoilers in here, some things to come that we've hidden along the way. In true Carter fashion, we like to we've sort of adopted the approach of hiding things. So anyone who's observant will find some interesting clues in this screen. All right, so let's dive into the story challenge.
I like how he's blamed me for this.
It's all your fault. It's too much fun. You're like, oh, we should hide stuff. I'm like, I'll hide stuff everywhere. And it gets so much better. And the best part is most people won't even know that they're there. And then like a year or 2 from now, they'll be like, holy crap.
Oh,
that was there a year and a half ago, and I didn't even know. Yep. All right, so we touched on story mode a little bit last time. It's really sort of the way to introduce the story of how Kryptomon trainers sort of entered into the Kryptomon world and their journey from the very beginning. And so initially we'll be releasing 6 different stories, each one with its own storyline, courtesy of Carter. And they've been super interesting. So I'm not a big fan usually of stories in games, but I've actually enjoyed sort of the process and the way that we're going to be telling the story. It seems a little bit, it seems in line with what we're going for from a style perspective. You'll have to complete them in order. So you have to finish chapter 1 before you get to chapter 2, chapter 2 before chapter 3. And each day you'll have basically, you can start a new chapter, a new story, and you'll have 24 hours to complete it before it resets. They'll be on a global timer. So we've heard you guys, and I know that everyone's super excited about the box timer. I know I am, because I've been opening my boxes now. For once, I don't have to get up at like 2 a.m. and hit the button on my wallet. So it's definitely been good. So we'll continue with the sort of global timer. And so you'll basically have 24 hours to finish the content for the chapter, and you'll have to basically collect 5 different things from each storyline in order to progress to the next story. The stories also will sort of scale in difficulty, with the earlier stories being a little bit easier. For those of you that have trained up pretty close to the level cap and on the training levels, the first few stories will probably be very easy. Obviously, we're trying to build a game that is going to support all new players and everyone, and so we kind of have to have this progression. And so for a new player coming in, level 0 training, just got their Kryptomon, we can't really throw them at level 50 Kryptomons. They're just not going to enjoy the process. So for new players, they'll get this sort of progression experience. For the older players, they'll just start melting faces, basically. But you'll eventually get to the point where you are a challenge, and I promise you it will be a challenge. So I think we're pretty good on story mode. Where we mentioned a little bit that once you finish the 6 challenges, you'll unlock a daily random and a daily hero story. The random story is really basically a scaled up version to max level. So when you played these levels, these stories right now, they'll be customized to that level 0 through 10, 10 through 20, 20 through 30. At the end, when you play the scaled up version, they'll be scaled up to level 50. And then for those who are interested in a more difficult experience, I won't ruin the surprise, but Hero is going to be quite the challenge. So anyone looking for a real challenge, I look forward to seeing you guys complain about the Hero story mode. So that's kind of the high level on the stories. The nice thing about this is we've actually built story mode as a framework. So all of this content, the structure, everything makes it super simple for us to release additional stories as we go. So it becomes something that we can add new content to regularly, add some additional stories, additional levels, that type of stuff. So it's really sort of the basis for how we're going to continue to provide content to the players.
Just to let me jump in here. Karen, but would you like to share a little bit indeed about this story? Because we're talking about the story mode, but you know what this story is going to be about. You are the man behind the keyboard of those. So how this is going to work? What's this story is about?
I was actually going to jump in after Brian had finished explaining like the mechanic. I don't want to give away too much because I do want you guys to go in, experience the storyline for yourselves. But just as a little bit from me, like Brian has mentioned, the idea is that we are building a game for people who are going to discover it a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now for the first time. So I know you guys have loved the comic. I know you guys have keeping up with the Coas logs, etc., already. But we're writing it in a sense so that people who go in for the first time, they've never read the comic, they've never read anything else before, they can follow along with the storyline as well. So I'm really, really excited to hear, your thoughts, your comments about how you guys enjoy the story challenge. And like Brian's mentioned, the framework is there. We have the ability to release future, more story challenges. So if you guys like it, if you guys have any comments on how we can improve it, let me know. And there might or might not be an interesting competition coming your way about story challenges eventually. not giving away too much. We're still discussing it, but that's where I'll stop there for now.
But did you may say that so in the future we're gonna have like extra content like NFT DLC, something like that? Did you say that?
Oh, come on! You know, the bit where I said, we'll stop here for now, not to spoil it.
Bird was like, yeah, don't worry, you're gonna own your expansion content. That's nothing new. That's pretty normal. No one's ever done that before.
Yeah. So one really, really interesting idea that we've had and is in the works is the potential of unlocking extra story challenges specific for characters, specific for specific storylines, depending on the NFT that you hold. Essentially, just like a DLC. Best part about this DLC, however, is once you play through it, you get the rewards, you understand, you learn about the storyline, you can just turn around and sell the NFT to somebody else. So new idea that we're going to be trialing in the future. Let us know what you think. Let us know how excited you are about it. And we'll see.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Little bit.
That's a huge. I mean, that's a big one. I didn't even know that was. I didn't know that was coming out. All right, you want to pull up the stage stuff? We'll run through that real quick.
Here we are.
Then we'll get to the.
So this is what's happened indeed when when we select the story, then what's going on?
All right, so story mode. Each story is made up of 9 different stages. Each stage will have a story component to it, and basically you'll sort of play through them in order, each building on the other. There'll be rewards along the way. So if you finish stage 1 for the day, you can collect your rewards. You can basically collect the way that it works is there'll be up to 3 types of rewards. So we'll touch on this in a little bit, but you can play with 1, 2, or 3 Kryptomon in a battle. So you don't have to have 3 in order to play. The number of rewards that you have will scale based on the number of Kryptomon you play with. So if you play with 1, you'll get 1 reward. If you play with 2, you'll get 2, 3, and 3. And then basically the plan is to have the top. We're still working through the Kmon rewards, but Kmon rewards would obviously be only rewarded for completing the story for the day. And so at the end of stage 9, you'll collect your story item that is part of your completion for the quest, for the story challenge. And then you'll basically be done for the day, and it'll reset in the morning and you'll be able to play it again. So the idea is you'll basically get 9 stages that you have to complete. They'll most likely scale in difficulty. I won't tease too much. I'll let you guys experience that for itself. But you can definitely expect some sort of randomness. One of the cool things that we've done is we built the ability to randomly generate Kryptomon genomes and talent levels. So every day you come in, you're going to get a different experience. Someday you're going to run into a team of tier 1s, all high level trained for that tier, and you're going to be like, oh crap, that sucked. or maybe that's the day that you have to use some consumables. That teaser. That was kind of just dropped in there. So maybe you'll have to use some consumables during battle to get through them. But that's sort of the general idea. The goal is to not create repetitive play. And so you get a little bit of a different experience every day when you log in. So I saw a question on
do we have some time for questions?
Yeah.
We've got 2 questions at the moment, I think. The first one is from Theodoric from Twitch. I guess this question will be on everybody's minds as usual, is when is this coming?
Yep. So we touched on this last AMA. The goal is to get practice mode out in June, with the PV story challenge to follow pretty close behind it. So as of right now, we're on track. Dev's looking good. The way that we do development now is a little bit different. We build all of the pieces and then we integrate them at the end. So there's probably 20 work streams going on that we're tracking, but everything's the art, the stories, the dev work, animations, visual effects, all that stuff's in process and on schedule. So things are looking good. So we're hoping to still hit that deadline. But I expect you will have some battle mechanics or some type of battle this quarter for sure. So that's that. And then I think there was another question on whether or not they'll scale with your own team.
Yep.
That's probably a good one. So in practice mode, the opponents that you face will be scaled with your team. So when you log in, if you're level 30 training or like 30, 40, 50, 20 in terms of like different stats, in your training levels, you'll get a roughly equivalent opponent. The story challenge is a little different. So they're based as a progression system for new players. So the first story is 0 through 10 Kryptomon levels, then 10 through 20, 20 through 30. Depending on how much you've trained and how good your Kryptomon are, that type of stuff, you will probably start to experience challenges along the way. But the first two, if you're level 30, the first story challenge will definitely be relatively easy. But obviously, like we mentioned, the goal is to have a good experience for future players as well. So in an ideal world, we would have had battle released at the same time you could train. But for now, it'll be just kind of a good way for you guys to experience the initial part of the story challenge without getting wrecked by our bots. So are there any other questions?
There's one more from YouTube. I don't want to stop your flow too much, but
No.
Rumon from YouTube. For the rewards in each stage, can we replay completed each time we finish it? So he's asking, can we finish the stage with 1 Kryptomon, get the reward, play it again with 2 Kryptomon, get a reward again, play it with 3, get the reward again?
So you basically will pick a story challenge. You're locked to that story challenge for the day. And then you get to play stages 1 through 9 at any levels that you choose. You could play the first one with 1, you could play the second one with 2, you could play the third one with 3. But once you finish the stage, you are locked out of that stage for the day. And then obviously they unlock the next day. The other thing to note is that once you finish story challenge 1, as of right now, you will not be able to go back and play it. I will say that one of the things, you'll obviously experience it in the random stories. One of the things we've talked a little bit about is an achievement system. So spoiler there, where we may open up earlier stages so that way you can complete interesting achievements for them without rewards, obviously. But we do have plans to kind of, one of the things I hate is building content and having a person play with it for 5 days and then it never get used again. Like it's one of my pet peeves. We spend all this time on art and effects and beautiful stories and then people never play it again. So we're going to focus on replayability as much as we can. All right, so I think this is a good time to dive into the battle engine. So if Umberto, you can just pull up the battle screen. We won't need it
like
quite
this,
yet.
like boom, drop it.
Boom.
Boom.
Somewhere.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So
here, Brian, take the time because we have a lot of stuff at screen. So
yeah. So I'm going to cover the flow first of the battle. So after you pick your stage or your practice mode, when you're going to be prompted with a screen where you can pick your Kryptomon. You'll pick 1, 2, or 3 Kryptomon for your battle. You'll also pick which your starting Kryptomon will be. So you get to choose which Kryptomon is your starting Kryptomon. So you can only have 1 active Kryptomon at a time. You'll also select the spells for your Kryptomon at that point too. So the game will remember your preferences, so like you don't have to pick them every time. If you go to play the second stage, it'll remember which 3 you've picked and which spells you pick because no one wants to sit there and pick 15 spells every time. So you'll pick your spells. The spell system is actually pretty robust. It's one of the things I'm actually most excited about because of the fact it gives us the ability to scale and add a lot of content. So to start, you'll get 1 physical spell. Each Kryptomon currently only has 1 physical spell, so it's pretty much set for you. That is your physical attack-based spell. And then you'll also have a choice of a defensive spell. In the first release, there'll only be 1 defensive spell. However, all of these things are basically just slots, and we can add additional spells of that type if we want to. I don't know if there'll ever be multiple physical spells, but there'll definitely be additional defensive spells. So you can imagine that the first iteration of the battle engine is kind of just like our introduction, and you can expect it to grow and expand as we add more content and features to the game. You'll also pick 2 elemental spells. And so the elemental spells themselves are basically your spells that are based on your elemental power. And elemental power is basically genes and talent at the end of the day. Right now, you'll only be able to select 2. I do have plans to drop 3, most likely pretty quickly. You can pick from your main family, your main element, or your secondary element. So you have the choice. one of the things that I really like about the design and the fact, like, it just kind of happened because Kryptomon have 2 elements. And normally when you run a battle game and you run like a healer or a tank or something, like some sort of archetype, you're only limited to that archetype's spells and classes. But in our game, you get 2, and it actually helps balance things. It makes it a lot easier because the number of combinations are very varied, right? For one, you're going to get a lot of different looks from other players. It makes every battle very interesting. And on top of it, we don't have to expand, say, healing to 100 different, like to every single element, because odds are you're probably going to have someone on your team that has healing either a specific element, which I'll tease later. I'm not going to tease it now.
No, but I think indeed at the end of the day, Brian, this is exactly connected we remember what we said in the last AMA, 2 weeks ago. That was that we want to make Kryptomon battles to be like more like a chess
match.
Yeah, a chess match. So that where players have different elements based on the 2 elements, they have different spells. And then they can actually select before starting a battle. They can select, okay, which spells I want to use from which element in order to prepare myself for the specific battle. So at the end of the day, you can really play your strategy. You can really come up with, okay, I'm gonna with this opponent, maybe with this tournament, I will, go fully attacking. I will be very aggressive on attack, and or I need this Krypton to be more like a tank in order to take the damage. So people can really have more options to pick that up.
It adds a lot. I mean, it adds a lot of depth. Like even just with 2 spells, we've already seen a lot of variety. So I'm super excited about it. The other thing, you also get an ultimate spell. Your ultimate spell is like your Big Bang elemental attack. You can only use your ultimate from your main family right now. I don't believe we'll ever change that. The idea is in order to harness enough energy to cast something that powerful, you need your main element. So I saw an interesting question on Twitch.
It's a quick question from Drew Candy.
So
I think
he has some good questions. He's observant.
He's paying
attention.
Not a
plant. I promise he's not a plant of mine.
He's paying attention. He's figuring out how to beat you already.
I know.
So the question is for everybody who's on YouTube and on Facebook: will we see the opponent's Kryptomon and then select our spells based on what's most effective? So I think there's 2 stages to that.
So the first time when you pick your Kryptomon and you pick your spells before you queue into a battle, regardless of whether it's PvE or PvP, you pick them, you're blind, and then you queue in. Basically, for every battle, once you're matched with an opponent, whether it's a bot or another player, you're given a what we're calling a spell selection screen, where you can basically go back and change your selections. What you will see on that screen is the name of your opponent's Kryptomon, the picture of your opponent's Kryptomon, and nothing else. So you as a trainer are responsible for understanding what the opposing Kryptomon's main element are and secondary element are from their looks, and whether or not you want to change your spells accordingly. So it's kind of like an additional chess match. You cannot change your Kryptomon at that point, though. You can change your spells, though. So the idea is once you're locked in, we don't want people, because at what point are you going to just constantly keep switching and then the battle never starts? Like Umberto changes Ghost, and I'm like, oh, I'll go Electric. Then he changes it back, and then I'm like, I'll go Grass or whatever. So we thought it made sense to basically force you to lock your Kryptomon choices, but not give you the forced spell selection. And it adds a ton of complexity to the game. Like those first 30 seconds that you're picking your spells can make or break your gameplay. Like that at the end of the day. Like if you see that all of your Kryptomon, none of your main elements are strong against your other opponent's Kryptomon, and you swapped your secondary elements in, that could win you the game at the end of the day. So I really like the approach, and it's obviously not too much time and time intensive. So the goal is to keep things flowing in the game. So we don't want like people waiting for like 2 minutes while everyone switches their spells and everything like that. So that is. Do we have any other questions? Otherwise, I'll keep going through.
Oh, we have one from Luciano. He's asking if we will be able to see our opponent before the battle. So knowing what is going to be there, I guess that he wants to know what is going to be there, the roster of Kryptomon that is bringing into the match. or not?
Yep. So you'll see the 3 pictures with the names of them, and that's it, and your opponent's avatar. That's all. So you won't know if they are attack Kryptomon, defense Kryptomon, balanced. You won't be told that they're.
Oh, they can search on the marketplace. They can search them on
yeah,
on chain.
Basically. And we're not giving the IDs out, so you will not have the ID of the Kryptomon, so it won't be easy. I will say that if you're observant, you can actually tell which type of Kryptomon something is and how strong it is based on its body parts. So, so I suspect that there'll be a fair amount of gameplay and some sort of strategy there, especially with some of the seeing whether your opponent's an attack Kryptomon or a defense Kryptomon. It actually is relatively easy to tell those things. So study up before we start.
There's strategy involved.
It's gonna be a lot, and that's what we wanted. Like, so the interesting thing about the design is like it's super casual. Like if you want to just log in and mash buttons, up until a certain point, you'll probably win most of your battles. The hero mode, you're gonna be tested. You will need to be fully trained. You will need to know what you're doing. You will need every trick in the book to get through that. To be honest, the devs are not very nice. Needless to say, those bots are nasty. But other than that, like we like to have like hidden complexity. So things you don't necessarily need to know, but when we start to look at making Kryptomon an esport, what does that mean, right? Esports are not something where you just sit there and mash buttons.
Excellent.
You need to be able to have a commentator sitting there that understands the strategy and is explaining, hey, this is what he did. This is why he picked those spells. He must have seen that the opponent He must have seen that the opponent was an attack Kryptomon and was basically going to be using their ice spells, something like that. And then on top of it, being able to sort of see the gameplay. So like when you go turn-based, obviously there's not a lot of action, but there's a lot of depth in understanding like why did that person select that defensive spell at that moment? Why did they cast that utility spell instead of bursting? Those types of things. So I think it has a lot of potential. At least for me, for a turn-based, it's probably the closest thing I've ever seen to an esports capable game that's turn-based. So I'm super excited there. Let's see, any other questions?
There's one from Nez1995 that really sort of is a perfect segue into the next section. But before I come to you, Nez1995, there's an interesting question here on Facebook that I would love to have answered. Gendrix-san, will there be a combination of spells, like a combination attack from different Kryptomons?
Combination. So there are interesting combinations. They're not structured in a way like you don't get like a combo type bonus for sort of casting a specific set of spells. I will say that just playing the prototype, I've already noticed that there's a number of different sort of what we call metas. So in battle and PvP games, you have what are called metas, and they're basically combinations of Kryptomon classes or elements that have a lot of utility with each other. They have a lot of they work and play off each other well. And so I will say that I've already found 3 or 4 combinations that seem to work well together. So I think it'll be interesting to see if players, I think we'll see once PvP starts, you'll start seeing a lot of combinations coming into play that people will want to play. And obviously it's pretty interesting because you get 2 elements. So if you want a spell that you don't have access to in your main family and you have something that has it in its secondary, you can bring them to battle. So I think you will see a lot of complexity and sort of pairing of different elements. But I'm excited to see what players come up with. I'm just one guy. I play it. I see things, but it's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe someone thinks this Ghost Electro combo is just absolutely killer, and they find a way to play it in a way that actually works. The thing that's super interesting when you add more spells is you get so much variety. Like there could be like a Ghost Electric combination that uses 2 Ghost and 1 Electric spell. And then if you're playing a different combination, maybe you use a different Ghost spell. So the idea is that we're going to add a bunch of different utility spells and things to make it interesting. The first iteration through is going to be a little more basic because we got to obviously flush out the system. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the depth of gameplay to start. All right, let me just see what else I got before we jump into the actual engine. The Kryptomon, obviously, with the highest starting, the highest speed goes first. So, and it's not your entire team. So you pick your starting Kryptomon, and then you can't change it. So it's part of the initial selection process. And so you pick that, and then that is basically what's compared in order to determine who goes first. There are also the ability to swap your Kryptomon during the game. So if you're taking a lot of damage and you want to swap your Kryptomon out, you do have the ability to swap for a bench Kryptomon. I will say that as of right now, there's a bunch of balancing going on, so it's hard for me to give you like exact information, but there may be a cost to that swapping, and we'll talk about that in just a few seconds. We are planning on adding consumables to the game, so we're still working through some of the details, but the structure's there. So maybe you can use a HP boost or a HP potion once a battle. Obviously, we're planning on not making it sort of pay to win, so we'll make them relatively available. I've actually got some interesting ideas for people that have been investing in silver and gold items to add some additional utility there. So stay tuned for that, because I think we've got some very interesting mechanics to build off the Tamagotchi phase into battle. So that'll be sort of interesting to see how that works out. And then obviously play goes back and forth. So I take a turn, Carter takes a turn, I take a turn, Carter takes a turn. If one of my Carter loses and goes down in a blaze of glory.
That's actually a question that somebody's brought up. I know it's not technically relevant to how the battle works, but it might be worth bringing up. From YouTube, somebody has asked, it was Max, if our Kryptomons are defeated in battle, how does that affect the Tamagotchi side of things? How does that affect the carrying parameters?
It's a great question. So currently the plan when you lose a battle, and even actually, so whenever you play a battle, your health will go down a proportion based on how much damage you took during that battle. As of right now, it's 10%. So if you lose 90% of your health in a match, you'll go down nine health points. One of the reasons that you're seeing a lot of the balancing concerns around health right now is we can't drop health quickly because of this. So the main sort of feature that drops health is battle, right, at the end of the day. And so right now people are swimming in health items. I've got like 1,700 in one of my wallets. I never use them. So the idea here is that we've balanced it such that your weekly boxes should roughly cover that, along with the rewards of winning the stages, should roughly cover your health requirements. So we're trying to keep things relatively balanced, but you will lose health. The other thing that's currently on the docket is if you lose the battle, all of your Kryptomon's happiness will go down. And that's just mostly because I don't want people to, they should be sad that they lost. Don't lose. It's not that hard.
Don't lose, guys.
Yeah, again, that's all you have to do is just don't lose and you're good. Don't take damage and don't lose. It's easy. Super easy.
Like in basketball, right? Just don't miss. Why would you need rebounders?
Just exactly. Miss. Just shoot your threes and go on and win the game. Who cares? Not that complicated. So there will be effects on Tamagotchi. It's the whole living NFT concept, right? You're in a battle, you're going to take damage, you got to recover, that type of stuff.
Bring it back.
Yep. So that was a good question. I also saw a quick question about Gen 1 versus Gen 10 in battle. Generations have nothing to do with anything. Battle is completely stats based, how much you train your Kryptomon and how smart you are. Like that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The generations are mostly focused around breeding and utility for breeding. And maybe some interesting things that Umberto and I come up with for the benefit of early holders and low gen. So the idea is that
open and closing parenthesis to the old, let's say to the early, the low gen owners and holders. You're working on it.
Yes.
We heard you, and because initially we thought that giving that it would have been quite good enough. But as you see, and as you know us, or I think you know us already, so you know that we started with an idea and then we see how things going and then we adjust. So for those that are owning low gen, we heard you. We are working on it. We're trying to bring more utility, of course, without completely unbalancing the rest of the game.
And I think that's like a common theme, right? So we want to reward people, but inside of battle, it's really hard. I think, Carter, you and I talked about like utility for the Aura Kryptomon. I have some wicked cool ideas on things that we're going to do for that, but it doesn't impact battle at the end of the day. Like, it's not fair to people to say, there are only 4,000 Aura Kryptomon. You have to have one in order to be in the league championships. Like, that's just crap, right? So battle's always going to be skill based 100% of the time. We're committed to that. We will focus on it not being pay to win. So that is the general approach and idea. But yeah, so I think the utility for some of like the auras and the early gens is coming. Some of it is going to be in the 3D, and I won't spoil that now. But there's some interesting things there. And were there any other questions? I think we're almost done with the flow. I will say that if your Kryptomon is knocked out because their health goes to 0, the highest HP Kryptomon from your bench is brought in.
There's one question. There's just one question I want to answer from Luciano. That he asked if then we will have a competition ranking and then we will be eliminated until the best one remains. So we will the World League. Answer is yes.
Yeah. I was intentionally avoiding that question, Luciano. Sorry, I did see it. I just didn't want to bring it up because it's a future thing. But I guess Umberto says, screw that. We'll just talk about it.
I mean, man, we said this since the beginning. I mean, we injected the entire concept with this. That at the end of the day, I will be happy when we're gonna, I will feel fulfilled and accomplished when we're gonna have the first World Championship tournament. So
yes. And I will say that PvP is actually my background in game development design. So like I'm all over that. There's going to be some crazy systems that I've worked and built in previous places. With the combination of the whole tournament concept and the daily and weekly tournaments, it opens up a huge opportunity for PvP. I think you will see this model in particular in crypto is something that could be pretty significant. Like having almost like that Poker Stars concept in like that's a big deal. I don't think there's very few places. I think there's like a crypto horses thing that has like betting Zedrun or whatever. They're super successful, and a lot of it has to do with like the bridging the gap between crypto and gaming. So I'm super excited about PvP. I can't wait to have the AMAs on all that stuff because that's what gets me jazzed up. So that's it. I think on the flow, battle's obviously over when you lose all of your Kryptomon.
There's one more question from Theodoric about how many battles can you do in a day well, I guess PvE, you've already mentioned that, but when it comes to PvP, do you want to touch on that really, really quick? He's thinking about farmers, basically.
Yeah. Like, obviously, our goal is always to keep a balance. Our goal is not to have people farm for 24 hours a day. The idea is that we're a play and earn game. You should be able to play to earn money to spend it back in game and earn currency. You choose kind of your path. I would say that don't worry. It will not be like a thing where you sit there and have to farm all day. The practice mode is set to, I think, 3 or 5 times for reward. You can play it more, obviously, to just practice. PvE story challenge is 9 stages a day. So that's your 9 and you're done. And then I suspect PvP will be a little more interesting. We'll probably allow you to play a bunch of PvP because we're looking at a ranking system to balance and structure things. And you need a lot of games to do that. And so we don't want to kind of take people out of that, but your rewards will be limited. We might do like a weekly reward based on your ladder position in the Battle League. And then tournaments are obviously one-offs, right? So if you pay to enter a tournament, you're going to be able to play. I don't really care how many of those you play a day. You can play tournaments all day long. I hope you do. So it'll be good for everybody. So I think it'll be interesting. But like I said, I think the goal is to obviously prevent people from just spam farming content. And there'll be utility and there'll be structure in general in everything that we do.
Given that we have 5 minutes left, let's go into Luciano's question, which is a really nice segue. He's asked, you've talked about healer Kryptomons. I see a lot of people focus on attack and defense. Who are the healers?
So healing is a mechanic based on elements. So this is probably a good segue into the battle screen itself. Probably the first thing you'll notice is on your spells at the bottom, you have this charge icon. So you'll see the first one is your physical spell, and it says +2. The elemental spells all have minuses next to them. The thing in red basically is the -10 is basically you don't have enough charges. So the whole game is based around managing your resources on things called elemental charges. And you can generate elemental charges a number of different ways. So we opted for this system over like a cooldown system. And I think it's more interesting from a gameplay mechanic. The physical spells generate 2 2 charges every time they hit. If you evade, you do not generate charges. So that as long as you do damage, you generate your charges. Elemental spells basically cost charges. There are ways to get charges also from your defensive spells. So the initial design has a single shield spell per element that basically absorbs incoming damage, a portion of it, and then generates charges based on it. So the idea here is that basically you're managing your charges as a player. You want to make sure that you're attacking with physical attacks to generate charges, and then obviously using those charges. In terms of healing, healing is basically a type of elemental spell. So we might as well start spoiling some of this stuff. The grass class is actually the healing class right now. So the grass elemental utility spell is the healing spell in the game. Obviously, we may expand on that and change that over time. But as of right now, the main heal is a self-heal on grass. The other thing to take note in the battle screen is you'll see these icons underneath the health bars, and this bar is actually what we call a buff and debuff bar. And so those icons are effects that are put on your Kryptomon either by yourself or by your opponent when they cast their spells. They have a number of turns that they're active, which is shown below, and then the ones that are in red are basically debuffs. They're things that are bad for you, and then the green ones are things that are good for you. We have a whole system. The first round of spells utilizes a fair amount of the system, but it's super easy for us to extend it. It's everything from increasing your damage to taking damage over time. If you're another spoiler, if you are a fire Kryptomon, you can put damage over time effects on your opponent to burn them. So that's one of the mechanics there. So the general utility of classes is based on their elemental spells. There's no healing specific stats or anything. It uses your elements in order to determine how much healing you do. Let me just see what else was in my notes. We talked about the charges. You can generate charges different ways. We talked about, so in general right now in the first release, your utility spells cost 4 charges. And a utility spell is something that basically doesn't do damage, but it puts an effect on an opponent. So it could be something like your damage over time. It might be a boost to your own elemental damage. It could be a boost to your physical attack if you are ground, for example. And I'm just going to start dropping spoilers all over the place. Like, why not? All right, so we're talking through it. So the effects and the direct damage are kind of uniquely tied to one another. So you also have a direct damage spell right now, which is like your basic elemental attack that costs 2 charges. So if you wanted to just do straight water damage, no effects placed on your Kryptomon, you basically can cast that for 2 charges. The thing that's interesting is we can scale the charges up and down based on what the spell does. So maybe in the future we have a spell that does a little bit more damage than a basic element spell and not as much as an ultimate spell. And so the charge cost falls somewhere in between. So the idea is that you balance the cost of the spell based on the effect and the damage that it does or what it does. Like I mentioned, that the damage calculations are for physical spells are based on physical attack, and then the elemental spells are on elemental attacks. And then I think right now the only other thing to mention is that the elemental efficiency, so picking the right Kryptomon to attack the opponent's Kryptomon, is roughly 1.5 to 2 times the damage, and that's one of the things we're still balancing it. So the idea is that we're gonna do a lot of work to balance it, and things will change. But as of right now, it's about 1.5 times to 2 times damage. All right. So that's all I got on the battle system itself. If we're interested in some of the other spoilers on elements, I can run through those.
But maybe you can keep that up for the other things that we have.
Yep.
Because as we.
So, now is probably a good time to tease that if you want. We can.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, since at the end of the day, we, as you all know, we have this kind of, let's say, we want to bring more content, and giving you more and more details, because the more the game is advancing, the more stuff is going to be needed to be presented, not only from lead this kind of AMA where we kind of share, high level general updates, all the things that are going from internally, from the product development, and from a company level, from a team side and everything. And this is still the founder's talk. But of course, as we were saying, as you can see, now that we go into the PvE and there's going to be even more stuff going on in the future, the more content has to be shared, and the more we want to share with you also to collect your feedback. So we're going to start, I still don't know yet when, but we're going to start a new chat, a new live stream for you with your beautiful Brian, with handsome Brian, because by the way, Carter, people are start typing, handsome Brian.
I know,
Carter.
I know, I saw, and then now we're giving them a whole new, session
just for
with
himself,
Brian.
Yeah.
Just Brian. And then people won't remember who you and I are anymore, but
no,
we're
exactly.
like has-beens.
No, exactly. Maybe we should fire him, Brian. Let's just fire him. Brian, sorry, you're fired.
You're done.
You're done.
I'll get plenty of time back. I'll have plenty of time to play. But yeah, so one of the things that seems to come up is there's a lot of questions, and once battle starts, and just in general, there's going to be a lot of general technical questions, and I don't always see them on Telegram. I try and keep an eye on things when people tag me. But the idea here is we're going to start a regular series every 2 weeks, every week, depending on sort of where things fall, where you guys can come and ask questions. We'll probably collect questions over the week, and I'll basically just be live streaming to answer your questions. So I'll pick some questions from the week. I'll pick some questions from people on the chat. And then obviously once gameplay starts, you can watch me play and wreck everybody. So I'll be live streaming gameplay. As a way to keep people entertained while we're
I see people, following your live stream, playing to understand your strategy. How do you
I know.
play? And
I won't get any cues or anything. I'll
exactly.
get and
then in this way they can smack you down during the tournament,
Yeah, I'll be like queuing PvP, and I'll be like, why is no one playing right now? I'm like, where did everyone go?
Everybody's just watching you.
Yeah.
And then he'll
have to queue privately.
Can you queue? Bring Gaia so that I can smack your ass with it.
So I think we're out of time, right? I mean, I could talk for hours about most of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time for today. And I think we're going to save the element archetypes for your first dev fire chat. So I guess that's where we're gonna cut it for today.
Just couple of things from my end, because I haven't spoiled it. I mean, I try to spoil stuff. I try to give things. Exactly. I mean, we can't leave this stage to Brian. I mean,
it's been a Brian chat.
Exactly. This has already been a Brian chat. People will get, a lot of Brian. Guys, you're going to get a lot of Brian. At a certain point, you will, get over with it. And you will start saying, please shut it down because we don't want to see Brian anymore.
We miss Carter and Umberto.
Yeah, bring Carter and Umberto's back. No, but what I want to say is, as you know, this is a second of a stream of a line of 3 AMAs of Thunderstock, and sharing and things. So last time we talked about the product development roadmap, how the things were going. Today we started introducing more about the PvE, because of course together with the mobile app, which is going to be, if I'm not wrong, the open beta, it will something happening around May. So it's behind the corner. So finally you will be capable to play on your mobile, and then you can bring your Kryptomon with you wherever you go. The next one, I think, is going to be the most inspiring one, I would say. Because, guys, as you know, we always said that at the end of the day, what we're trying to build is really recreate a world. We want to really bring not only about the battles, we really want to create an economy, a society, and a world. And so the next AMA, it will be indeed about this. It will be about Kryptomon 2.0, I will call it. Which is something that we're already working on. Just to give you a general update, we just brought 3 new Unity developer inside of the company. We just hired them, and our team on the dev side is it's scaling quite a bit. And these people are already working in secret, not so much on the Kryptomon 2.0, which is going to be something that you probably might see somewhere next year, because it's going to take a huge amount of time. But we're going to talk about it in the next AMA, and we're going to talk about lens, we're going to talk about crafting, we're going to talk about guilds, kind of this MMO universe that we're building. So stay tuned. Make sure that you're going to participate in the next one, because the next one you will be more future driven, and so you will be capable to understand where we are going. This one, a really deep dive on a specific thing in the short term. The next AMA is going to be very more long term, like the first one that we had. And then what I would like to say is just to everyone is, stay around, because May and June, they will be a very, very packed and hot months, so to say. Not only from a product development perspective, from other things. So yeah, stick around. You will not be disappointed.
I'm so proud of you, brother. I'm so proud of you.
He's trying so hard. He's like, I want to say it, but I can't.
I can't, right? I'm so
No,
proud
exactly.
of you.
No, even though, because I know that if I spoil it, I will have like part of the marketing team and everyone, shoot me down as soon as I leave the door. As soon as I will not be able to leave my house anymore if I say something more. But the only things I can say is that, May especially, there's gonna be a lot of things, meat on the grill, and finally we will be capable to start serving that meat. So stick around. It will be nice to know more about it. And that's this is a spoiler without saying a spoiler, so you can't complain with it. It's teasing.
I'm gonna take 1 minute and give my spoiler. It's not really much of a spoiler, but it's more of a challenge to everybody else. All the stuff that Umberto's talking about, all these lands, all of this MMO stuff, I'm already starting to think about the quests. I'm already designing them. I am very, very eager to see who can understand my brain and see how they figure out all of my different puzzles. So very excited about that. And a bunch of people were talking about it. Luciano, I think you were one of them. If you guys have any ideas about what you want to see in the backstory of Kryptomon World, I want to hear about your ideas. We might not use them, all right? I'm just gonna be upfront about saying that. I might not use them, but I might. So any comments, questions, thoughts, put them all into Telegram. I read them all, or at least I read most of them. But yeah, that's me. We good, guys?
We're good.
Done?
I think we're
all
done.
right. I guess that's what we're gonna cut it for today.
Bye bye.
See you guys soon.
Bye, guys.